Welcome to the following presentation of the National Football League on NFL Network.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Blue Podcast here for a brand new series of the Red, White, and Blue Show. I am your unfamiliar guest on the show, Josh. You know me from the Golden Show. But also, this is a very different sport that we're talking about on this channel, on this show. I've got Conor with me. He's going to be doing this show with me every single week as the NFL goes on until the end of February. So, how you feeling, Conor?
I'm doing good. I woke up on time this morning, had a nice cup of coffee, which, you know, you probably can agree. The cup of coffee just makes everything start going right in the morning. Can't survive the day without a cup of coffee first thing.
So basically, to everyone who's not aware of anyone who's basically not too sure what we're doing, so me and Conor, for every single week of the 17 week regular season of the NFL, we'll be doing predictions for all the big games, and I will show you our predictions for all the other games that no one really cares about at the end of the video. But in today's video, we're going to be doing our basically what would be in the equivalent of football terms season predictions, where we're going to guess the records and the divisions for every single NFL team and division. Basically, for anyone who's not aware or who's interested in learning how the NFL does work, the NFL has a slightly different preseason schedule. The NFL, the organization body, organize friendlies over the course of 4 weeks for NFL teams. Normally, they try and partner teams who don't play each other in the regular season. Let's see, this year it's a 3-week preseason because of the extra regular game season, which used to be 16, which has now been up to 17.
And the cool thing about the preseason as well that people don't realize is by the end of week 3, you have to cut everybody else but the players that you're going to go with in the season. And that's one thing that's huge is unlike, you know, the Premier League where you can go into the season with just 26 and you can loan out and bring in from there. In the NFL, once you get to week 4 of the preseason, you have to have no more than 53 players. You have to cut everybody else or else you get in trouble.
The thing that makes it even more interesting to get to that point is that over the course of the preseason, you have to cut players as each week's gone along. So, for example, the NFL teams from week 1 last week to week 2, which is tonight as we record this, they've already had to cut 5 players from the roster. It'll be an extra 8 into next week, and then they have to cut it down to their 53-man squad. That 53-man squad includes your starters on the offense, defense, the same starters and backups in your defense, and all your special team personnel. So it's very difficult for coaches to analyze it. For anyone who's not too sure how divisions work, divisions are split. I don't know how many divisions there is on the top of my head.
It'd be like split the Premier League up depending on where they are in England. So, like in one division, you'd probably have City, United, Liverpool, Everton, because they're both kind of over in that section. And then you could have the London division, which would be Arsenal, Tottenham, you know, West Ham, and Chelsea. And that would be the London division. So depending on where they are in the state of, and, you know, the United States is huge. So it's based on the actual like region that they're in, that they're put in certain divisions.
Each division has 4 teams in them. Each team in that division play each other twice every single season, home and away. They're known as divisional games, which are absolutely massive. If you finish top of your division, you get into the playoffs. But with the way the playoffs games being rescheduled this year, 3 teams from one division could make the playoffs, which is absolutely insane to think. So that's what makes the NFL even better.
Dolphins go to the playoffs this year.
And that's pretty much the basics of it. We're recording this as preseason. We're going into week 2 as preseason. Normally, what happens, to Conor's point about the rosters, week 1 of preseason is normally basically the starters don't play. It's all your backups and undrafted free agents to see who does get cut and who doesn't. Week 2, the starters will get some reps, and then week 3, you will probably see it'll be the equivalent of like the last preseason friendly in football, where all the first team players are playing to get their sharpness, to get used to the system. And because in as Conor would know, in the NFL, there's a lot of coaches. Like you have your offensive coordinator, then you have your wide receiver coordinator, then you have your pass game coordinator, then you have your run game coordinator.
You have a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, then you have a line coach, a defensive back coach, a defensive line coach, a linebacker coach, a wide receiver coach, a running back coach, a special teams coach. There's literally every single different position you could play in the NFL has its own coach. And then you also have your strength and conditioning coaches, your physios, and then, of course, the offensive coordinator, which calls all the offensive plays, defensive coordinator that does all the defensive plays, and the head coach who runs the entire ship. which can be dangerous.
If you're a head coach, we'll obviously get onto some first year head coaches who some of them took on some very bad jobs and some other ones have some big pressure on them. But being a head coach in the NFL, you literally in the NFL, obviously you have what I'm wearing. I was like a headset, and that head coach can tune into any channel. You can tune into the offensive channel, the special teams channel, the defensive channel. There is a lot to the NFL, but we will keep you up to date. We'll do our best by all stretch of the means to try and we'll do our best to try and keep you up to date as much as we physically can. And I do highly recommend. If anyone is interested in the NFL, I do highly recommend watching Amazon Prime documentaries that they've done with NFL teams. You get a really good intel to how the NFL actually works during the off season. So we're going to get into our division predictions. As I said, we're going to go in order of how the predictions go. Starting off with the AFC East. I'll let you go first, Conor, since you're the American fan. Or the American guy, should I say.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking the AFC East. We get to talk about my division. I think as much as I'd love to, I'm a Dolphins fan, and we've had a history of not making the playoffs ever. But with the Patriots taking a step back without Brady and the Jets being the Jets, I think especially with like you said, we can get three teams from each division in here. I think it's honestly going to be the Bills and the Dolphins finishing 1 and 2, and I think both teams will make the playoffs comfortably. But I do think the Bills will take the division. I'm guessing they'll probably be about 12 and 4, and we'll probably be about 10 and 6, and just squeeze ourselves into the playoffs for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, so for the AFC East, I'm very much the same. I've got the Bills 13 and 4. The Bills look very, very good last season. Obviously, they knocked us out of the playoffs and the Ravens in a very dodgy, windy Buffalo game, which field kick was near impossible. I've got the Patriots 9 and 8. I can't see the Patriots having as much of a bad year as they did last year. Like last year was an utter embarrassment from them. They still beat us though in the regular season, which was typical. Cam Newton, I think he'll have a better year. From what I've seen in the preseason, I think Matt Jones, a new quarterback, he looks quite good. They have improved the wide receivers.
Which they had to.
The Dolphins have got 8 and 9 in third place. I just don't like your offense. I don't think Tua. There's something about Tua. I just don't think he could lead an offense. I don't think he's a big time quarterback. And one thing Fitzpatrick did last season is he made plays by himself, and there's something Tua just cannot do. You can't rely on Michael Esky, your tight end. On everything.
Oh, we can't. Gesicki's been back actually really good during the regular seasons for us. He's actually been one of our top players on that offense. I'd have to disagree. I think we've got a lot of offensive talent. Yes, we do have Tua, who's now going into his sophomore year, and I think he's going to grow. I don't think he'll do amazing the first couple weeks, but I think he'll grow into it as the season goes on, and him growing, the team will continue to do better. And I think we should squeeze into the playoffs. Like I said, 10 and 7, 11 and 6. We'll squeeze in there, but it will be very close.
And then the Jets have got 4 and 13. I like the head coach, Robbie Saleh, first year head coach. What he did at the 49ers with the defense was incredible. Like that 49ers defense was incredibly tough to play against. First year low, there's a lot of question marks over the quarterback they've drafted. A lot of is apparently from training camp he's struggling big time. He did struggle there in the first preseason game I've seen against them. So
and they're always bad.
So the Jets, I think they'll do okay. I think they've got a bit of a better squad, but it's the Jets, man. I don't know. They'll probably do something like they did last year, where they were terrible for the whole year, and they turn up towards the end of the year and fall.
Yeah, I think they'll be like 2 and 10, and then just go on a winning streak and end up 5 and 11 or something like that.
That's what they did last year under Adam Gase. They went to beat the Rams and the Browns and completely changed the whole aspect of the divisions.
It's like Arsenal; they'll lose a crap ton, and then right when the manager's job is on the line, they'll start winning a couple of games to make sure that he stays in the job.
On to my division, Conor, the AFC North. This is one of the, along with this and the Seahawks division, this is the 2 hardest divisions to call this year.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be happy. I have the Ravens finishing first. It's Lamar Jackson. He's coming off an amazing season, and I think an MVP season as well. And I just don't see him leading this team to anything less than first place. I think we'll see the Ravens finish first. I'm guessing probably about a 13-4 or a 12-5. We'll have to see how it goes. The Browns in second, because I just think that Browns team is really, really good. They've got a ton of talent across the board. Steelers finishing in third, but that could be honestly my division, where, like you said, 3 teams go through from that one division. We could see all 3 of those teams go to the playoffs in the end. And then, of course, the Bengals, I think Joe Burrow's going to do well. I hope that offensive line keeps him protected, because we saw what happened last year. They didn't protect him and he got hurt. But I still don't think it'll be enough to defeat any of the giant teams that are in the division with them.
My predictions have got the Ravens finishing. I do have the Ravens finishing. I agree with you. 10-5. We have some really difficult games. Away to the Raiders first week, difficult. Then you're home to Kansas City, which we haven't bet yet, since they've kind of went on their wee winning streak. I do think we'll lose to the Browns and Steelers a few times. We've got a really difficult schedule, but I do fancy us. The Browns, I think Kevin Stefanski did a brilliant job last year. He looks like he's finally maybe found a system for Baker Mayfield and their run game with Hunt and who's the other one? My head's gone blank. It's Kareem Hunt and who's the other one?
Oh, it's
My head's gone. Your head's gone too.
Yeah, my head's gone. I'm looking it up. I'm not.
It's Kevin Hunt and someone
Nick
else.
Chubb.
Nick Chubb, that's the one. Yes, Nick Chubb.
I was going to say that's been their guy for forever. I don't know why we didn't remember that. That's been their dude.
Kevin Hunt and Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, they've been really, really good. So they found a system for Mayfield. They're going to be a really difficult team. I don't know if you remember that game towards the end of last season, when we traveled away to the Browns and Lamar Jackson came back and made a massive 4th down play to win us the game with a touchdown. It was absolutely absolute.
All I remember from the end of the year last year is when the Dolphins played the Raiders and Fitzpatrick had his freaking face mask pretty much ripped and his neck ripped to the side and still made a 25-yard bomb to beat the Raiders.
I was raging. I remember watching it live. I was actually so furious because if he's lost that game, we got playoffs. I remember, yeah. I've actually got the Steelers going 8-9. Their offense is terrible. They have improved their run game. They have got a new running back, which is desperately needed. But Big Ben's not it anymore. I think he's past it.
I think they need. I think this year they'll draft They'll see how bad he is this year, and I think they'll draft a new quarterback to really take over that team.
They need to. Big Ben's not it anymore. Not convinced about their run game. They have lost. They have lost some big personnel on the defense. I just don't. We're still lose to them. We lost to them twice last year. One reason was very unfortunate because of COVID, and we were missing Lamar Jackson, Andrews. Well, we had RG3 a quarterback, which he played woefully bad. So it's sad to see RG3's careers went down the absolute drain. He had so much potential at the start of his Washington.
Even the start of his career period. I mean, he's a Heisman winner coming into the league. So I mean, it sucks to see him go. Do you see? The Steelers is someone I see that may try and do a rebuild to where we may see another big name get, like maybe Juju Smith-Schuster or Mr. Watt. I see them trading somebody at some point in the year to try and beef up their picks and try and hopefully just do a tiny bit of a rebuild.
I do agree because I do think the Steelers are getting to that point. Because if you look at their team, if you think about their running game, like James Conor was awful last year. They had no running game, and they had to rely on Big Ben. And Big Ben, you could just tell Big Ben was past it.
Big Ben's past it. He doesn't have it anymore. He needs. I think they're gonna try and get rid of somebody to try and get themselves into that number 1 spot to try and get the best quarterback coming out next year.
The thing about the Steelers. The funny thing about the Steelers is that obviously they went 11-0 last year, but they had such an easy schedule. It was incredibly easy. So they were lucky to even be in a playoff consultation. And the Bengals, it depends on the O-line. For the Bengals, the O-line has to improve massively because that O-line is a disgrace.
It's absolutely disgraceful.
It's probably one of the worst. No exaggeration. When you've got 32 teams in the NFL.
No, it's terrible. They're probably 30th.
Yeah, there you go.
They're a terrible. That offensive line is the reason they did so badly. I think they were doing pretty well when they had Burrow under center, but as soon as they let Burrow go down, that's where everything tanked.
And the thing is, though, Bengals head coach Shaq Taylor, he's now in his third year with the Bengals. He's under a lot of pressure too because he's been there for a while. He's had the drafts, he's had some free agencies, and the Bengals to improve. They did lose yesterday, 17-13 to Washington in the preseason game. So I don't fancy their chances. But
he might be someone that we see fired at the end of this year, which is an interesting thing. Whenever we see, of course, we see a lot of, especially now, which has been interesting. We see a lot of Premier League managers getting fired mid-season, but you don't really see that a lot when you look at the NFL. A lot of the times, the NFL, they let them stick it out to the very end of the year, and then they go, "All right, you're done now."
Well, you see, it's a key example with Adam Gase, the Jaguars coach. Two guys who kind of stayed on and then chopped. On to the AFC South, Conor. This is a bit of an interesting one.
You can say that again. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting team for me. Looking at the South, though, there's really only one team, especially with the reemergence. If we're talking people I'm pissed off about, the head of this team is it's the Titans. I'm pissed. Tannehill was awful for us for years and years and years. We gave him 5 seasons, I think, with us, and he was terrible every single year. He's now gone to the Titans and become this really, really good quarterback who's, Pro Bowl discussions and leading his team to great things. And, him and Henry is just a beast, isn't he? I mean, that's just, if you're looking at just a bad man, him and Saquon Barkley are just 2 dudes who I would never want to see running full tilt at me in pads. So I see them going probably 13-4 and completely winning this division easily. But my surprise is I have the Jaguars going second.
Okay.
I have the Colts going third. And I have the Texans finishing last in the division. I think there's a lot of animosity in that team. Deshaun Watson still does not want to be there. Even though he's stuck there, he does not want to be there, and it's known. And we don't even know if he's going to be able to play because of all the civil suits that are going on around him and all the crap that's happening with him. Their head coach is terrible. Bill O'Brien should be fired. There's just nothing good about this team. There's a lot of good players, but I just don't see them playing well. I see them finishing last by a couple of games.
In terms of my predictions, so the Titans, I've got the Titans go 11-6 win the division. Tannehill looks like he plays really, really well within the system that the Titans use. Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry. He's an absolute beast. The only thing about the Titans is they have improved their defense, and that's what stopped them from being a really good team last year was their defense. They haven't particularly improved that. They've made some good signings. Obviously, they've got Julio Jones, which is a really big game from them on the offense, but defense is still a bit suspect for me. I've still got the Colts finishing second. Obviously, big blow. Carson Wentz already suffering an injury. He will be out for week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks. The Colts they did really, really well last year, and they've got a really good head coach. But the issue of the Colts is my biggest issue of the Colts personally is I just don't see where they're going to get much score. Where's their big plays going to come from? Because Carson Wentz last year was awful. Don't get me wrong, the Eagles' offensive line was a disgrace. There was injuries right, left, and center, but I just have no faith. It's sad because Carson Wentz came in the draft. I think he was the pick ahead of Jared Goff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so.
And he was an incredible prospect, but injuries have just ruined the guy. And the thing that he's 69 rated now on Madden this year kind of just sums up where he's at. It's a shame because the Colts should have been building off a really good year last year, but it's a shame. Jaguars 4-13. Obviously, they've got Trevor Lawrence, don't they?
Yeah.
So they've got Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, he's probably people say he's one of the best quarterbacks coming out of the draft in an extremely long time. It'll take time for this team to come good. They've got Urban Myers, I believe, is their head coach.
Yeah, I just think they have a lot. They've got a lot of good talent already there. I think they're just waiting.
Well, obviously, just on that note, obviously, Jamie Robinson, an undrafted running back, and ended up being one of the best running backs in the NFL last year. So
Yeah, you can't really tell with this team. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, but a lot of upside to this team. And with a good quarterback now in Trevor Lawrence, who can be mobile if needed, but is just a very good passer, I think that's why I put them being as high as they did, because I think they'll surprise everybody and end up playing way better than everybody expects.
Urban Meyer, I like Urban Meyers a lot. His background story is incredibly good. Trevor, I just think he's going to build a really good Jaguars team. You know, if you think about the team that last year, like Gardner Minshew, my God, is he bad? He's absolutely
terrible.
So like the Jags have a lot of rebuilding to do, and as you know, it's not like football where obviously for a lot of reasons in the NFL
you can't rebuild quickly.
Nope, it takes a good 2 to 3 seasons. You know, as you're literally experiencing as a Dolphins fan as we speak. So, because obviously the first year under Brian Farnell's you played us the first week under him, and
we've been rebuilding. We've been rebuilding for the better part of a decade. So,
but the Giants, and then I've got the Texans going 2-15. Deshaun Watson's not going to play. David Culley's an absolutely awful head coach. They've got nothing going for them. No one wants to play for them. They've already lost. They're screwed. I
don't see them doing anything.
What was that trade with Hawkins to the Cardinals last year? Honestly, that was one of the worst trades I have ever seen in my life.
And they got rid of DeAndre Hopkins, which was awful. Watt and Hopkins both leaving was one of the worst things I've ever seen a franchise do. You just don't do something like that.
Onto the AFC West, Conor.
Yeah, this is probably my easiest division for me. There's no one going above the Chiefs. I'm sorry. There's no chance anybody finishes above the Chiefs in this division. And then Chargers, I have second. Herbert's just been Herbert's ended up being one of my surprises of that last draft. Ended up just having a very fantastic season and very much deserving to keep that first base job. And I think he's going to improve on his sophomore year, on his freshman year, and be really good this year. And we'll see that him lead them to second place. The Raiders, I just don't like the Raiders. And of course, they've come out with this stupid policy for when people want to go to the home games, where you either have to get jabbed right then and there at the front gate and then wear a mask when you go inside, or you have to show proof of a full vaccine to go to a home game. But this Raiders team is not that great of a team. Derek Carr every single year proves that even though he's a decent quarterback, he's not actually that great as everybody likes to say he is. It's not a great team. It's not a great coach. I just don't see them doing much, and it's a third place finish for me. And then, of course, the Broncos, ever since Peyton Manning's left, they've been shite. And I don't see that changing.
I've got the second same orders. You've got the Chiefs 13-4. The Chiefs got absolutely outplayed in that Super Bowl last year, get to the Buccaneers. I don't see it changing. I think the Chiefs are going to be on a rampage. They've actually got some better personnel than they did last year. They've upped their defense, but they have improved the O-line, which was very open in that Super
They've got
Bowl.
the best head coach in the league.
And obviously Andy Reid, we're not going to go into that. Obviously, if you want to check out Conor's Andy Reid stand there is showing it on the Red, White, and Blue show. 2 seconds, my friend's texting me. Ooh.
You see the news out of Inter
Milan?
Yeah, they said that Lautaro apparently Spurs has bid for him, but they're saying he's going absolutely nowhere. It's not like Lukaku. He's literally not going to be allowed to leave.
No. The Chargers. You had to you have to feel bad for the LA Chargers because Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. I think he's got probably just as good potential as Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. Obviously, he's a different quarterback and such, but he has that potential to be an explosive and to be a playmaker. And I would not be surprised if he was in the show for an MVP. It's a big show, but he absolutely has the potential to do it.
He's gone off completely in his first year. I don't think anybody was expecting him to be as good as he was.
The really funny thing is, he wasn't even meant to be the starter last year. It was the fact that the starting quarterback for the Chargers suffered an injury before the game. He got thrown in without any notice, without taking starting reps and training, and he just immediately fitted in. It's just like it was so natural for him, and it's not often you see that. You look at Tua, it's completely opposite with Tua. The Raiders, I don't like Joe Gruden. I think he's an absolute cocky cunt. I despise the guy.
Well, I don't like Gruden either, but I think he's a good enough coach. I think he's a good coach, but he's funny. If you listen to the NFL Hard Knocks, if you listen to highlights of him in like practice, it's the funniest thing you'll ever hear. But I'm not a big fan of his.
And then, as I said, I do agree. Derek Carr, he has his games, but he's not a top quarterback. He's not a top quarterback.
He couldn't beat the Dolphins last year when it mattered.
Running game, non-existent. Defense, man, they're basically like a mid-table club in the Premier League. You know,
They remind me of Arsenal, just always touting that they're way better than they are.
They do okay, but like they had one really good year under Joe Gruden, but they never lived up to expectations. Maybe this new stadium will make a difference. I don't know. And then I said the Bronx. I've actually got the Bronx going 7-10 at bottom. I think they'll have a better year than last year. They've improved. They've got some better personnel in certain aspects. But my biggest issue for the Bronx is that one, I think they'll lose to the Chargers and Chiefs both times.
Yeah.
They'll lose to the Raiders once, and they play some really difficult teams. They're an okay team, but the issue is they need a quarterback. Like Drew Lock. Yeah,
they have Joe Flacco.
No, he's at the Eagles.
He's at the Eagles now. Really?
No, Joe Flacco's been playing for the Eagles in preseason.
I could have sworn that he's moved.
No, he's at the Eagles. He played the 2 preseason games so far.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's Teddy Bridgewater. There we go. That's the quarterback I'm looking for.
Terry Bridgewater. Well, he'll be the starter. Yeah,
Bridgewater will be the starter, and I think he's honestly going to play well for them. I think people underestimate how good of a player, like how people overestimate how good Derek Carr is. People underestimate how good Teddy. You remember Saints Teddy Bridgewater and Viking. You remember Vikings Teddy Bridgewater before that concussion.
Mm-hmm.
He was a beast.
Terry Bridgewater came in for Drew Brees and played incredibly well. Like that Saints team looked just as good with him as quarterback as it did with Drew Brees. And then a lot of people were saying, "Oh, look at him last year. He was in an awful Panthers team. That Panthers team was diabolically awful. Like his O line he got no protection. He had no good weapons. Like he was.
He has McCaffrey, but that's it.
Could you imagine going from the Saints protection to the Panthers?
Yeah, I think this is good this is a perfect team for Bridgewater because it's a team that's got potential because they have a lot of good pieces, but there's zero pressure for him to really perform because this has been a terrible team ever since Manning left. So there is zero pressure on him to really be an amazing player.
I don't know if you remember, but see last year obviously with COVID, the Buccaneers, they're not the Buccaneers, the Bronx had to play a game without a registered quarterback because because one of them had COVID and the other 2 were close contacts. They had to play a practice squad wide receiver, a quarterback. How that game was not postponed, I will never know. But
the NFL refuses to do stuff that seems like the logical thing to everybody else.
I just need to phone my friend here. Obviously, I'll edit all of this out. So would you just give me 2 seconds and then we'll resume?
Yeah, no worries.
That's it. I'll obviously edit all of this out. So obviously, if you really get the show. Okay, so I'm just going to pause so I know where to edit it. Okay, we'll go again. All right, so the next division is probably the worst division in the NFL, the NFC East. This is literally who's the best out of the worst. That's pretty much how you sum up this division. I'll let you, Conor, go first. It's a terrible division, especially last year.
I love how you sum that up because this is a division that has my best friend's favorite team.
Which one?
And my best friend's favorite team is who I have finishing first, which is the Cowboys. I think they just The Cowboys, I think, are fully healthy this year. Zeke and, everybody on that team is going to be pushing hard to win this year after the embarrassing. And the thing you have to realize, the Cowboys were the Cowboys and the Niners were the two most injured teams last year.
Mm-hmm.
You keep that team healthy, and that Cowboys team's actually a pretty decent team. The defense is good, and they've improved on it. The offense is good. They've improved on it. I mean, the Cowboys, just look up and down at the Cowboys roster. It's just a good team. Like, I don't see this team doing anything but get first. I just don't see it. I mean, you look at the team, they've brought in Micah Parsons, who is going to be an absolute beast at linebacker. Kelvin Joseph's been brought in, who's going to be an amazing cornerback for them, which their defensive back's always been their biggest problem. And then, you look at the roster in general, and you're looking at some of these players and going, yeah, this is a good player. This is a really good player. Just across the board, Lyle Collins is a good player. Amari Cooper at wide receiver. They have Trayvon Diggs playing. They have Zeke, at running back, who's always been really, really good. They have Michael Gallup at wide receiver as well. There's just up and down. This team is a very good team. I don't see them doing anything worse than first. Second place, I have the Eagles. I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but I think they'll be that team that finishes second. And third, I have the Giants. I think they'll do well. Eli Manning being a part of that coach, it made me laugh. I saw something where it was Tom Brady being terrified because Manning was back playing football, and no one reminded Brady that it was in a coaching capacity that he was back with the Giants and not a playing capacity. But I think that'll be huge. I mean, having the experience of an Eli Manning coaching up the quarterbacks, especially this year, I think is going to help lead them to being in third place and not being the disgrace of the worst division in the NFL. And fourth, we have the football team. I just don't see them improving.
I've got the Cowboys going. I do have the Cowboys win, but I do have the Cowboys going 9-8. They've got a really, really difficult schedule this year, and they have improved the defense. As you'll know, the defense last year was atrociously bad for them. Like, it was a disgrace how bad their defense was. They have improved it. But I still don't fancy them. Obviously, how up to speed will Dak Prescott be after his serious injury last year? That's my biggest concern for them. Yeah, I think the Cowboys will do. I think the Cowboys will win it, but I feel like I'll not. I feel like I'll be down to the wire. Second place, I do have Washington. Fitzpatrick is looking really good in preseason, and Ron Ferrieva is an incredible head coach. And the fact that he was on the sidelines coaching his team after fighting cancer and all was absolutely remarkable. They did really well last year. Obviously, Alex Smith coming back. Alex Smith kind of nearly made them up into the playoffs. Quarterbacks, obviously, the quarterback's been a massive issue for Washington for a long time. Obviously, just one Haskins wasn't particularly it in the end. Obviously, he's now a backup somewhere. But Ryan Fitzpatrick will do a good job. Antonio Gibson at running back is very good defensively. They're very good defensively, especially their pass rush. Their pass rush is insane. I've got the Giants in third for 6-11. Obviously, they've got Joe Judge. He's done a really good job for them. And they've actually got a really good coaching team. They've got Patrick Graham, who's the defensive coordinator, who you'll remember from the Dolphins the first year under Brian Fernell. He obviously didn't stay very long, but he's done okay with the Giants. And then they've got former Cowboys head coach as the offensive coordinator in Jason Garrett.
Yeah, that's a big step down for him. That makes me laugh because I know he was not very liked when he left.
So he's got the Giants are okay, but Dan Jones, he doesn't really. I think Daniel Jones, he's a good quarterback, but he doesn't have very much to work with. And defensively, the Giants are rubbish. I have the Eagles going last. They don't know who their quarterback's going to be.
It's Hurts. They've announced that it's pretty much going to be Jalen Hurts.
I don't know. I don't know, man. Hurts looks okay.
I was right though. Flacco's on the Eagles. He was not with the Ravens.
No, he left us ages ago. He was at the Jets last year.
Yeah, I know, but I think Hurts will be the QB. For me, it's hard because I think I give the Eagles more credit than I should. But I'm going to stick with what I got.
Well, they've got a first year head coach this year too. Jalen Hurts. I don't particularly think he's anything too special. They've still got Fletcher Clocks, and I think someone else up front there too for their two DTs who are really, really good, but they just don't have much going for them. You know, their offense is basically nothing, and their defense is very young. So I think they're in for a long season, but they're definitely a team in rebuild. I think Doug Peterson unfairly lost his job. I thought Doug Peterson was a really good head coach, but obviously they've seen it different ways. But I think he's probably better off away from the Eagles because I
think it's like the Jets. Any coach is better off away from the team. It's the Eagles and the Jets right now.
AFC North.
A very fun division. I'll let you start with this one.
Well, I have the Packers winning. I have the Packers winning 11-6. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks over Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, it was an ongoing thing for months, but he has turned back up. he has came back. He is training. Obviously, there's all question marks. Would we see Jordan? Was it Jordan Love? Who was he was drafted, and he's yet to play a game. He was yet to play a competitive game. He has played preseason. I think the Packers will do obviously fine. Obviously, they've got a really good team. Aaron Rodgers is still a quarterback. I have them going 11-6. I don't think they'll do as well. They have lost some key personnel. I don't know how they're going to do. You know, if this whole animosity of Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers is a professional. He'll play.
It's Rodgers.
He'll play, and he'll do well. The second place, I've got the Vikings at 8-9. The Vikings had a bit of a disappointing year last year. I thought they were. It just seemed like they were missing the pace. You know, Kirk Cousins really struggled last year. And it seems like your running game wise, obviously they did very well because they've got an incredible running back. You know, they've got an absolute insane running back. But defensively, which is one of their strong points, obviously their head coach is their defensive coordinator. Very good defensive mind. It looks like they were just missing so many pieces on that defense because it was so young. So like there was a lot of undrafted rookies in it because a lot of players actually opted out from COVID too. So they'll do better this year. The Bears, I've got 8-9, the same record as the Vikings. Justin Fields looks like one heck of a player. And even if he doesn't do well, you've got Andy Dalton there too. And Andy Dalton's a reliable quarterback and someone very good to learn off. So very pleased with the Bears. I think the Bears will do really well this year. They made the right decision getting rid of Trubisky. Like, Trubisky was awful. The fact that Trubisky and Nick Foles were their quarterbacks last year was something for our team. They've got a really, really good head coach. They've got a good running game, solid defense. I think Fields is going to be the real deal. I think Fields is going to be a reason why they're going to do very well. The Lions 5-12, bang average team. Jared Goff, awful. He's not a good quarterback whatsoever. Defense is awful, but they'll win a couple of games there now because they do play some easy. They play like Washington and the Giants this year, so I think they'll beat them. And yeah, there's nothing exciting about the Detroit Lions. You know, if you're a Lions fan, I feel bad for you.
Yeah, I always feel bad. I have an old college buddy who's a Lions fan. I always feel bad for him whenever I watch their season. But yeah, Packers in first. It's Rodgers. You don't, unless he goes down horrifically in week 1 or week 2 or something like that, and they have to deal with Love the entire season, then I don't see them doing anything less than first. I don't think they'll go deep in the playoffs, but it's going to be a division title win for them again. Second place, I have the Bears actually, and I have them going 11-6. I just think Justin Fields is an incredible talent, and that team, I think now that the defense is led by Khalil Mack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a very, very good. The Bears have always been known for a good defense and a very rough and tough defense. And now that they have a good quarterback in Justin Fields, I don't see them doing anything less than second and possibly squeezing into the playoffs as well.
You see Justin Fields starting then over Andy Dalton?
Yeah, I think they're going to go straight away with him. I think Dalton's going to be kind of like Fitzpatrick was supposed to be for Tua, which is the mentor, the old head who's going to teach him everything.
Well, the idea was to play Tua from the start, but obviously the Purdue preseason last year completely screwed it up, didn't it? So Fitzpatrick had to realistically play.
Yeah, so that's the only reason Tua ended up playing in the end is because, Fitzpatrick had COVID because Fitzpatrick ended up being the better player. But I think that they're brought in Dalton as an old head who's been very, very good across his career to teach Fields everything. And I think Fields will start and play very well and lead this team to second place. The Vikings are stacked. There's a lot of good players. But I see them going 10-7. Just missing. I think they're going to be just by a game below the Bears.
Okay.
But that team is very good. That team, those two could easily swap during the course of this year.
And what about the Lions?
Lions are dreadful. I mean, you want to talk about a team going absolutely nowhere. That team's a 4-13 or a 3-14 waiting to happen. That's just an absolutely dreadful squad. I don't see them doing any better than 4th.
Well, that's fair enough. Fair enough. NFC South, I've got the Buccaneers going 14-13. They're stacked on both sides of the ball. It's incredible. Some of their contracts, if they've got workings, obviously the sticking the salary cap's incredible. Like honestly, and Bruce Adams, the head coach, he's a really, really good head coach. Like they're just so stacked, it's unreal. That are going to win this division comfortably. The Saints have got 9 and 8 in second. Who's their quarterback is going to be the question. Is it going to be James Winston or is it going to be Taysom Hill? That's the big question mark. James Winston is a good quarterback, but he's known to throw those interceptions. And Taysom Hill, like he's okay, but he's not going to be a quarterback who's going to make you win a division or get far in the playoffs. He's just average. He's like a Drew Lock. He's okay, but he's not going to do anything special. I think the Saints are going to struggle next year offensively. Their O-line's looking a bit. I know their O-line's looking a bit suspect. Their O-line is looking definitely a bit suspect, but I still think they'll finish second in Division 9 in the year with a positive record. But I think it's going to be a difficult season for them. Falcons have got 3rd and 6 and 11. It's the Falcons. They're getting worse and worse as every year bloody goes on. They're not really improving. Matt Ryan's still a decent quarterback, but he's not getting much help anymore, really. It's just kind of a matter of, do what you can. Defensively, they've lost a fair few players. They've obviously lost Julio Jones. It's dark days if you're a Falcons fan. I've got the Panthers 5-12. They've got Sam Darnold now as their quarterback. Nothing. He's not really that good. Christian McCaffrey, need to keep him fit. Maybe could win more than 5. I've got them 5-12. Maybe go a bit more higher. Maybe finish in 3rd if McCaffrey does well. But yeah, the Buccaneers. This is the Buccaneers' division to lose. I think you'll agree with me on that.
Yeah,
there's a massive question with the Saints on is it going to be Winston or Taysom Hill as the starting quarterback?
Yeah, so I'm gonna throw in a little shock and awe here. The Buccaneers are finishing first, but that's not where my shock is from this year. I think they go 14-3. This team's just gonna dominate. But second place, I have the Panthers.
The Panthers,
I have the Panthers. And here's why. Darnold, I think, is going to have a revolution. He's away from the awful Jets team that he was on. And I think he's really going to strive. And another person we have to remember who's also not on the Jets anymore that he gets to hook up with, his old buddy Robbie Anderson.
That's true. That's very true.
A very, very good wide receiver. And if you look, they've actually picked up some decent talent as well. I mean, in the draft alone this year, they picked up J.C. Horn, who's now coming out and is going to be who's the son of the son of Joe Horn, who played wide receiver in the NFL as well in the 80s. So he's the son of a decent NFL wide receiver. So we're looking to continue, the tradition of having a Horn be a very good player in the NFL. And then also adding a big, big talent to go along and I think help take some, of the attention away from Anderson is Terrence Marshall Jr. coming out of LSU. So now they have 2 good wide receivers. McCaffrey, who I think is one of the top 4 running backs in the entire league, period. You can fight me on it, but I think he's one of the best. And J.C. Horn's going to help that defense out. You even have DJ Moore, who I think is not a terrible player, who's also a wide receiver. So you have 3 wide receivers there who could really be solid. I think this team is very underrated after having a terrible year last year, but I think in bringing in Sam Darnold, I think that was a brilliant move. You reunite him with Robbie Anderson, and you bring in a guy who I think Darnold's a good quarterback. I think he's just been with a terrible Jets team for a while. And then third, I have the Saints. I have it being by a game. I have the Saints finishing probably 9 and 8, and I have the Panthers finishing 10 and 7. So it's going to be a very close one again. And then the Falcons, I think, just a team going, again, like the Lions, a team going nowhere. Matt Ryan needs to retire because that team's going nowhere and he's just sinking with the ship.
Who do you think is going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Hill or Winston for the Saints?
I think it's going to be Jameis Winston, and I think halfway through the year he's either going to get injured or he's going to bottle the crap out of it and be just terrible. And that's why I think they're going to end up third, is because I think Winston's going to bottle it 3 games in a row and lose 3 games straight. and they're going to finally bring back Hill, and Hill's going to do well, but it's going to be just barely not enough to get the Panthers.
And then on to the final division. This is definitely seen as the most competitive division in the NFL this year. The NFC West. My friends are Seahawks fans. But I'm going to start off. I actually have the Rams winning this division. The Rams are looking. Listen, one of the biggest issues last year was Jared Goff. They've solved that. They've got Matthew Stafford. He's he's a really good quarterback. They've improved the O-line, which is going to massively help with him since he's not really mobile. He's more of a pocket passer. Big issue though. Yes, they have lost Cam Akers, but they've got Henderson. They've got DJ Henderson, and he's not as good, but he can do a job. And I think they got someone in the third. They got a running back in the third round here. Apparently, he's been doing really well. And defensively, they are bloody. So on the offense, wide receivers too. They've got some really, really top wide receivers and a decent tight end. And defensively, they're stacked. They're absolutely stacked defensively. And I love Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay is a brilliant head coach. We actually played the Rams on week 17, which could be a very big game for both of our divisions to come that time. Seattle Seahawks 11-6. Big question marks for me over the offense this year. They've got they've got the former Rams passing game coordinator Sean Payton as their offensive coordinator. A lot of question marks over him because, obviously Russell Wilson starts off well every single year, but as the season goes on, the offense just starts being more exposed. Their O-line has slightly been improved, but Russell Wilson's still not going to have much protection. But other than that, the running back and wide receivers are still very good. I think the offense is going to be very good, but defensively, they're looking. They did get Jamal Adams' contract signed, which is massive for them. But quarterbacks is a serious issue for the Seahawks. One of their starting quarterbacks is Trey Flowers, and he's awful. He's diabolically bad. It's a big, big issue for the Seahawks as quarterback. But I do think the offense is going to be enough as long as the Seahawks, as long as Russell Wilson plays well and the O-line isn't too bad, I think they'll do fine. The Cardinals 9-8 in third. I like the Cardinals. I love Kyler Murray. He literally is like a mini version of Lamar Jackson. Probably maybe a bit better in the throwing game, but defensively the Cardinals are really, really bad. That's why I've got them going 9-8. I think their offense will do really well. They have improved their defense. They've definitely improved their pass rush for sure. But the secondary is looking. That's where I'm having my worries. Is the secondary. They were passed on really, really, really easily last year, and I don't see that changing this year. Unless their D line's insane, at the quarterback gets no time. But D line can only really do so much in a game.
They've lost two. Their two best players in that secondary are now with two separate teams. You look at Patrick Peterson now at the Vikings and Tyrann Mathieu now at the Buccaneers. That's two big players. Exactly. No longer in that secondary.
I do think their offense will do really, really well. Though the offense, and Kyler Murray is only getting better as the season goes on. I think this is another coach he has a lot to prove this season is Cliff Kingsbury. I think this is his make or break year, very similar to Zach Taylor, probably some other head coaches. I feel like they'll do okay, but I just don't. I think they'll lose to the Seahawks twice and to the Rams twice, and that's already 4 losses. And they've got quite a difficult schedule. Then I've got the 49ers who finishing bottom. Question mark over their quarterback. Are they going to play their rookie, or are they going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo, who's not really good? He's a handoff merchant, as I like to say. But defensively, they are very, very good. And that's why I have them going 8-9 solely the defense, because I feel like the defense is going to win them. But I don't see them being a high-scoring team. And that's why I've got them 8-9, because I could see them being outscored on the by other offenses, because their run game's very good, but if they go behind in games, you just don't see them coming back, because they just don't have a quarterback who would make a magnificent play or like that. So you probably have something very different to me, but it's such a congested division that it can really go either way. It really is just a guessing game of these 4.
Yeah, so I have the Rams finishing first. I've done a little bit of a mix around now that I've really looked at the rosters and stuff like that and seen how it's going to go. But I think the Rams will finish first. I think literally each team is going to be separated by a game or 2, period.
That's what I have, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
I have the Rams first. I have the Niners in second.
The Niners in second?
I just look at this.
Is it the defense?
I just look at this team, man. It's so good, dude. I mean, you have two quarterbacks in Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo, who are both honestly good quarterbacks that can get the job done. They have Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and Dee Ford and Tony Jefferson and HaHa Clinton Dix and Javon Kinslaw. You know, this team has so many good pieces on defense. And then you even look at the offense. I mean, Jalen Hurd, who's now coming into this team, who's a very good wide receiver. George Kittle, who is the best tight end in the entire league. Bottom, hands down. Raheem Mostert's actually a very good running back. Their offensive line is actually very good. Mohamed Sanu is coming away from an awful Lions team, and of course has been passed around like a thing I can't say because this is a Blue podcast. But he's actually a very good player. I think there's a lot of and you have Deebo Samuel, who's also on this team. There's just, wherever you look, there's good talent on this team, and I think it's going to be enough to get them second place. This team stays healthy. I mean, even Eric Armstead's on this team on defense as well. If this team stays healthy, like I said, the Cowboys and the Niners were the two most injured teams in the entire league last year. If they stay healthy, they have the best fullback in the league as well. If they stay healthy, this is a second-place team. I think they'll fight with the Rams, but this will be a second-place team. Third, I have the Seahawks. Like you said, defense isn't great, but I think is good enough to get the job done and go third. But in a very tough division, I don't think they'll get any higher. And the Cardinals, I don't know. I mean, it's a good offense. Like you said, I'm a big fan. I had Kyler Murray as my fantasy football quarterback last year, and I'm a big fan of him. But the defense isn't great, and there's always, as much as I hate to see it, there's always question marks over J.J. Watt. Can he stay healthy a full season?
That's some say. There's a bit.
He goes down quite a lot. He goes down injured quite a lot, and a lot of times when he goes down injured, it's for the year. And like you said, if he goes down, that D-line's not nearly as good as it was, and that secondary is atrocious. So can they, the offense can score plenty, but can that defense stop the other team enough to actually give their team a chance to win the game on the offensive side? I don't know if they can do that enough to get any higher than fourth.
That's fair enough. Just before we wrap things up, just while it's in my head, as a Dolphins fan, just to briefly speak about our own teams, as a Dolphins fan, obviously, what do you make of one to Tua, from what you've seen, and two, Brian Farnell's obviously your new head coach, because there's one's the guy who's changed your franchise in Brian Farnell's in terms of what he's done for you guys since he's came in, and then Tua, he was drafted as someone who had this massive potential. He's going to be the face of your franchise, but last year he was replaced by Fitzpatrick for 4 games, and he just couldn't do it in the big games. Now that was just down to no preseason and stuff like that, which is fair enough because rookies had a really. If you were a rookie last year, you had a tough season. Unless you were Herbert, who apparently didn't even need a preseason. But just in general with the Dolphins, how are you feeling?
Brian Flores has been a revolution for us, and I think he's going to continue to lead this team to better and better. And I think Tua is honestly going to get better as the year goes on. He's got the confidence as he is the number one now. It's not up for debate whether or not he's going to be the starter. He is our starter. We have a good backup, but he is our starter.
Oh, just to say, your starter is Brissett. He was at the Colts last year, wasn't he?
He was, and he was great. But I think this year, Tua has been told he is a starter. You are going to be who we're going with, and I think that'll give him confidence to play well. I think he's going to be good. I think he'll lead us to the playoffs for the first time in, I think, over a decade now. But, we'll have to see. It's very hit and miss with him sometimes, so we'll have to really see how this year goes. But I think that this is going to be a very good team that could easily end up getting themselves into the playoffs. And, of course, your Ravens. I know exactly how you feel about your Ravens.
Yeah, well, just very brief about the Ravens. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have an incredible year. I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a really, really good year. I do think of Mark Andrews. I'm sure you probably know a bit about Mark Andrews. He's a really, really good tight end. Nick Boyles could be coming back from injury. That's a big part of our offense. J.K. Dobbins looks like he's going to be some running back. Gus Edwards is there too. He's physically strong. Sammy Watkins was a good get if he can stay healthy. Marquise Brown's improving. Bateman, unfortunately, suffered an injury. He'll miss all the preseason, which really does suck. But I do think he'll come in and do a job. I just feel, and defensively, people I honestly, I don't know about you, but I think people underestimate the Ravens defense. The Ravens defense under Wink Martindale is a really good defense. The pass rush is incredibly strong. Middle linebacker is decent, and we've got some of the best corners. We've got Martin Humphrey and Marcus Peters. We've even got some good people in depth, and just Sean Elliott, at safety, and Chuck Clark. So we have a really, 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 really good. We have a really, really decent team, and I feel like this is the year where we just need to get over that line, just have a bit more consistently. Try to not mess around too much on the offense, and I just think this NFL season is going to be really interesting. The Ravens are playing tonight against the Panthers in week two of preseason. I am staying up to watch that game. Obviously, for you, I'm sure your Dolphins game.
We play at 4 against the Falcons.
The Falcons. So there you go. That's nice. Are you going to watch it?
I'm going to try to. And the thing is, you mentioned cornerbacks. We have the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and we just re-signed Xavier Howard, who demanded a trade. We reorganized his contract and gave him a very good contract, and he is now officially re-signed for us for long term, and that's a huge thing for our defense because it's a huge boost.
That's very true. Yeah, your good quarterbacks are quite insane. It's just a shame your line isn't anywhere near that standard.
That's big. Liverpool's main sponsor, Standard Chartered, has been accused of helping finance the Taliban terror attacks.
Who was it?
The Liverpool's main sponsor.
Damn.
Per NBC.
Wow, well, that's nice. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that brings the end to the Red, White, and Blue show here of the NFL predictions. As I said, this will be happening for every single week of the NFL for the 17 weeks plus the playoffs and the Super Bowl. Conor, this is going to be a really good series. I've really enjoyed talking NFL here with you.
I love it. We could talk for hours if we could.
As I said, if you're interested in seeing more of Conor, he is on the actual Red, White, and Blue show with Billy Joe and Jack. They talk NBA over there and some NFL. I'll be over there too, talking NFL as the season starts, and it's going to be a very, very good little series, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got some. I've been in talks with the boss, with Tom, and actually we've got some pretty big shows that have not been released yet. We're not talking really about what they are or when they'll come, but we have some pretty big shows coming out in the near future. Look out in the next couple of weeks. We're going to have a big rotation where I think it's once a month we're going to be doing a couple shows that I think are going to catch a lot of people's eyes and be a couple things that, they are more European in nature, like soccer, but they're going to surprise some people, and I think it's going to have a lot of people tuning in. So look out for those coming in the next couple of weeks.
So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. If you're watching this on my channel, because it's been uploaded to my channel too, just because I was going to make a predictions video anyway, so I might as well combine two birds with one stone. Make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're watching on the Blue Podcast. Hit the subscribe button. We're I think we're not 40 subs away from 900. So yeah, please help us out, and we'll help you out by bringing you this amazing content. The grind on this channel, man, it's intense. It's getting big. It's getting high. And see Conor also now a new senior member of staff. He's working behind the scenes constantly. But Conor, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching. Hit the subscribe button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we will see you in the next episode. Enjoy your week, guys, and come on, Baltimore.